Hello and welcome. This is Jasur from Shanghai Silk Road. In this presentation, I would like to talk about China company registration step-by-step process. And now, if you notice, we keep making this kind of videos on a regular basis because, registering a company in China, the whole process sometimes changes and the requirements, depending on the situation, might differ as well. So this information in this current presentation is true for 8th of November and 2021 and onwards. So if you are interested in registering a company in China, these are the things that you need to consider. First and foremost, company type, name of the company, shareholders, positions, business scope, etc. Now, if you want to have a clear picture what we're talking about here, you can go ahead and download our client form below in the description. There's a link, so click on that link and you can download a PDF file. So in the client form, you can see specific areas where you can actually type company type and name of the company, shareholders, positions, business scope, etc. So before you actually start the registration process, because once you think about all these details and make up your mind, it's going to be very easy for both for our clients and for us. During the company formation, we're going to rely on this client form, because it provides us with clear information. Now let's start. Before we start the process, basically, you need to think about a company name, obviously, like in any other country. Company names in China, they consist of basically three parts. Number one is this place of registration. So the company name has to carry place of registration. For example, Shanghai, right? If it's Guangzhou, then the company name is going to start with Guangzhou. Now we're talking about private companies, okay? Obviously, sometimes you might see like company starts with China, for example. Those kind of companies are normally government-owned companies. So in this example, we are only talking about private companies. So Shanghai, and then followed by the name of your choice. For example, Shanghai ABC, Shanghai, Alex, for example, or Shanghai, any kind of company, Shanghai Tesla, for example, And second thing is international trading. This is also, it also depends on the type of company you are registering. If it's a import and export company, it's going to be international trading, okay? Because the company is going to have both import and export license, so therefore it's international trading. Now, what if the company only trades in China? In that case, it's going to be only trading. You can drop the international part. Okay, Shanghai Tesla trading, for example, And obviously, company name should end with company limited extension, which we're going to talk about soon. So I'm going to actually talk about the types of companies and explain what does this limited mean. Now, what if the company is a consulting company? So in that case, obviously you change the international trading or trading part with consulting, and that's it. So yeah, a lot of people actually ask us, can we drop the place of registration as well? The answer to this question is unfortunately no, you cannot. But what you can do is, for advertising purposes, maybe you can use the name of your choice here, which we put with XXX. So that one can be used for advertising purposes only, and that's it. But obviously, if you want to know if you can drop this place of registration in, for example, financial forms like in invoices or in the system of bank or taxation, the place of registration is going to stay there, okay, because that without this the company name is not going to be complete. But another thing I want to note is when you start using this name of your choice for advertising, it's always recommended that you register that as a trademark so that no one else can use it, because in China trademarks are not based on who uses first concept, okay. It's strictly based on who registers first. So for example, in the US, if somebody started using it without even registering, they can claim that because they, solely because they started using it before anyone else. So they can actually claim that and then go ahead and register. But in China, even if you start using it but you haven't registered your trademark, someone else can go ahead and register it before you do. So that's why make sure if you use only this for advertising purposes, you register your trademark. But going back to the original topic, unfortunately, place of registration cannot be dropped from the company name in financial documents, bank system, tax system. It has to stay. And also, when we talk about the company name, I should note that Chinese name of the company is the main name of the company, because in China, obviously, Chinese language is the official language, but English name of the company is going to be attached as well. So, but the only place you see your English name is going to be in the official seal of the company. We actually have a video on our channel, YouTube channel. You can look it up. It's called China Company Stamps. So there are like 4 stamps, and one of them is a round one, biggest one. So that is the main stamp of the company. It contains the English name of your company. So that's the only place actually you see your English name. In other documents and also in government system, only Chinese name of the company exists. And now another question, obvious question is, do you have to know Chinese in order to name your company? Well, you don't have to. This is why companies like us exist. We can actually help you choose a Chinese name based on your English name. So let's assume that you pick this name where you can see XXX here. Let's say that it's Tesla, once again for illustration purposes. So you pick Tesla as your company name, and then we're going to pick Chinese characters that sound exactly like that. Not necessarily a translation, but sound. It's going to be like, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be transliteration of the English name. Because most of the names cannot be translated, so what we do is just we pick the exact sounding characters, and then of course we're going to check the system if those characters are not registered, and if they're available, then we can go ahead and register them. But generally speaking, what you have to pay attention to is, when you're picking a name, make sure that that name is not some historical name, or it's not some country name, or some sensitive words, for example, vulgar words, or anything that violates Chinese laws or policies, or anything that cannot be used based on general logic. Those can be like sensitive to the culture, etc., etc. But anything other than that can be used. So you can go ahead and pick and give us some, like at least 4 or 5 options, both in English. And if you know Chinese, of course, you can include some characters of your preference, and we're going to use that. So anyway, so this is about the name. Okay, once you think about the name, you can write it down in this client information form, or just take a piece of paper and write your company's name. Okay, some options. Now, next thing you need to consider is obviously company type. what kind of company you would like to register. But generally speaking, in China there are 4 types of companies that foreigners can register, starting with limited liability company, and next is representative office, next joint venture, and lastly it's partnership. Of course, there are other types of companies available as well, but they require some extra structuring. Maybe you need to partner with some local companies or local individuals in order to get access to them. So we're not going to talk about those other types of companies, but with simple approach you can register these 4 types of companies. Now let me start explaining by LTD. Now, LTD, limited liability company. Now, please don't confuse it with a private company with limited by share. Okay, because in most of the common law countries, LTD might stand for private company limited by shares, but in China it is actually limited liability company, which might be abbreviated in other countries as LLC. But in China that's not the case. Okay, LTD stands for limited liability company, not LLC. LLC in here stands for actually the other version, which is private company limited by shares. So we will not talk about that. We're going to talk about LTD here. So LTD, definition of LTD is actually exactly the same you see in common law countries, like shareholders liability is limited to the shares they hold. Okay, that's it. So, and also a limited liability company in China can have up to 50 shareholders, and it consists of at least 1 individual director of any nationality and 1 individual supervisor. Now, shareholder can be at the same time the director of the company. Director is also called legal representative of the company. Okay, but a director cannot play the role of a supervisor at the same time. Now, I'm going to talk about the positions in a bit, but let's go back to LTD company. Now, LTD company can be owned 100% by foreign shareholders, and shareholders can be individuals and corporates, or mixture of both. And also they can be local people as well if you want to partner with, for example, Chinese individuals, citizens here, or Chinese companies. So they can, foreigners and local people or companies, they can both form an LTD company here. Obviously, it depends on your business plans. So now, next thing is a representative office. It's also available for foreigners. But representative office, like in most of the countries, normally it's registered when a company exists elsewhere outside of China, and that company want to enter the Chinese market, but obviously they want to test the waters first before they invest fully or register fully functioning company. So the purpose of representative office is that to represent the mother company and also conduct some market research in a new market, specifically here in China. And there are some very important points I need to note. The representative office cannot engage in trade, cannot engage in consulting. It cannot generate any income in China. The only thing it can do is represent the mother company. That's it. Maybe have some meetings in their office. Of course, they can have some staff as well, but they cannot be generating income. They cannot be issuing invoices to local or international clients in China. They cannot, charge clients in China for some services. All right, it's impossible. So that's why, like I said, it's registered before a company starts investing in China fully. Okay, so it's just to make sure that this market is right for the mother company to enter fully. And obviously this is like, it happens, when you look at these big companies or big brands which exist in, for example, in developed countries, they use this strategy. Okay, they establish their representative office first for some time, maybe 1 year, 6 months, or even 1 to 3 years, and then after that they decide to actually form a company. Okay, most of the time it's a limited liability company, because limited liability company, LTD, in China is the most common type of company among foreign entrepreneurs. Now let's move on. Next type of company is JV, stands for joint venture. So JV normally, as most of you might know, is formed for specific projects, okay, and for limited time. And JV can be in two forms. One is here in Chinese, it's written foreign joint venture, and another type here on my right hand side is China foreign joint venture. Okay, so it's like Sino foreign joint venture. Now, of course, depending on your situation, like if you have some potential business partner outside of China, you can, both two companies can form a joint venture in China for some kind of project, and or if you have some potential partner in China, then obviously you can partner with a local company to register a joint venture. But like I mentioned, you can go ahead and check the definition of a joint venture. Why do they exist? Because I'm not going to talk about much in this video. But generally speaking, joint ventures, they exist only for specific projects. Okay, and obviously their business scope and market accessibility, legally speaking, they are restricted. They don't have the full potential of a fully functional LTD company or partnership, for example. Okay, so from that aspect, you have to be very careful. And yeah, actually, most of the time we recommend that it's better to pick this LTD company, because that is the most common, first of all. And another important point is LTD company has the most flexibility in terms of function. Next, partnership. Again, the definition of partnership in China is exactly the same like in most of the countries. It can be in two forms as well. One is general partnership, another one is limited partnership. And obviously, depending on your situation, you can register accordingly. But normally, yeah, partnership is, I would say, the second most common type of company registered in China among foreigners, because you can form a partnership when you actually have a potential, partner here, individual, and yeah, it can be actually formed by both foreigners, like foreign partners, or in mixture of both, like foreign and for local partners. So it depends, your situation. Now, partnership, obviously, like I mentioned, it can be limited or general partnership. Now, assuming you decided your type of company, now let's move ahead. Oh, actually, before we go ahead and talk about the registration process, the last point here, you need to think about the shareholders as well. Now, who are the shareholders of your company? Are they corporate shareholders or individual shareholders, obviously? So like I said, take a piece of paper, write it down clearly, so you can see the big picture. And in China, both are allowed, okay, corporate and individual shareholders. In case of corporate shareholders, bunch of documents need to be legalized. Those documents normally, articles of association of the shareholder company, and plus business license, and also a document showing the ownership of the company. Okay, so legalization normally is done at the Chinese embassy or consulate in the place where this shareholder company is registered. Next thing is positions. So this is the last point actually you need to consider. Positions. Now, most countries, if you look at them, outside of, I would say, US, Canada, and most of the European Union, countries require some positions, prior to registering the company. For example, in Hong Kong, you need to actually appoint a company secretary. This is, a required position. And in China, it's more or less the same, because in China there are two positions required by law. Number one is company director. It's also called legal representative of the company. And another one is company supervisor. So company representative, legal representative, company director and supervisor both can be of any nationality, and they can be they should be, actually, not can, they should be individuals. Okay, corporate director is not allowed in China, and corporate supervisor also is not allowed in China. Both should be individuals, okay, but can be of any nationality. Now, can they be outside of China? This is the most common question we get. Yes, they can be, but in a moment I'm going to explain why it's better that you find a director who is in China, or you find somebody who can travel to China. Because in order to open a corporate bank account for the company, director need to visit the bank. Okay, that's very important. Next is business scope. Now, business scope, obviously, what are you going to engage in, okay, by forming this company? For example, most people say that I want to do import and export, and then we go ahead and ask them, can you be more specific, because we need to make sure that your company is not going to need some sort of additional licensing or permits. For example, if your company is going to import and export food or beverage products, then we will have to apply for additional license. Or if you're going to export, let's say, masks during the pandemic, for example, from China, again, that requires additional license. Or some medical equipment also requires additional license. And let's say alcohol, for example, we have some clients from Latin America, Chile, Argentina, and they sometimes they're interested in, for example, importing wines into China, and that requires special license as well. So therefore, when you write all these details about your company in a piece of paper or our client form, make sure you write down exactly what kind of products or services you want to sell, okay, with this company. You don't have to be very, very exact, because obviously we understand that it's impossible to know beforehand, but at least you can take your time and think about, at least give some approximation, some list of products that you might potentially trade with, or services as well, because if you don't add everything that you want to trade with, it's going to create two problems. Problem number one is, if you decide to add additional products or services in the future, it's going to take some time, and it's going to cost a little bit extra money as well, because in order to add these extra services or products, you need to actually change some of the documents of your company, including business license. So, because why? All these products and services that you're going to list will be displayed on the business license of the company in China. Okay, so this is how it works. Don't ask me why, it's just the way it is, And another problem is actually, adding a new product and adding a new service later on might be actually refused, because sometimes it depends on the preference or the local policy of the place of registration. let's say that you register your company in Shanghai, and again we narrow it down. In Shanghai there are 19 districts. You pick a district, let's say it's Pudong, and in Pudong there might be some, you know, preferences or some restrictions, you know. So therefore, you know, you need to give us the list of products and services so we can go ahead and check, actually, you know, if you can add them. If you cannot, obviously we're going to recommend a new, you know, different place that can accept those kind of products and services for your company. So next, moving on. Now the documents, many people ask. So obviously, like I mentioned, if the for example, you know, director is in China, then director only need to provide a copy of his or her passport, and supervisor can be outside of China. No need to, you know, for them to travel to China. They can just provide the copy of their passport. That's all. But the shareholders now, if the shareholders are different from the director and supervisor, and they need to also provide their passport copies if they're individuals. But if the shareholders are corporate, you know, companies, then they need to actually take their company documents, business license, articles of association, and documents showing the ownership of the company. They need to legalize all of these documents at Chinese embassy or consulate. And Chinese embassies and consulates, they know how legalization works, so you can contact them and say that, okay, you want to register, legalize your company documents for the purpose of company formation in China. And it normally takes, you know, around 7 days, and maybe less. You know, in some developed countries they have expedited services. So once the documents are legalized, then you need to send those legalized documents to China so that we can translate them. This translation process only should be done in China. Okay, you cannot do that outside of China, because if you do that, a company registrar here will not accept the translations. So we actually have a translation company as well. So if you send those documents, we're going to translate. And yeah, obviously to our clients we offer very cheap prices. And this is about the shareholder documents. But what if the company director is outside of China? So company director, if he or she outside of China, they have to do the same thing just like the shareholders. Like in the case of shareholder, corporate shareholder, they had to legalize the documents, right, at the Chinese embassy and consulate. The same thing is going to happen if the director of the company is outside of China. They have to contact the Chinese embassy or consulate. Remember, director can only be individual, right? So it's a person. So they need to contact the Chinese embassy or consulate in the place of their citizenship and ask them to legalize their passport. And that's it. So once they legalize the passport, they have to again, you know, mail the legalization document to us so that we can translate into Chinese and stamp it and present it to the company registrar. Apart from that, a copy of the passport for the company supervisor is required. Now, before we go ahead, let me briefly talk about the roles of these, you know, two positions. Let me go back here. Two positions, because a lot of people ask, and before I forget, I want to talk. Like, company director's responsibility is to, you know, manage the company basically, just like in any other country. It's the face of the company, and it is the person who is responsible for, you know, day-to-day running of the company. And that's the reason why it's called legal representative in China. Okay, so legal representative equals to director in China. It doesn't have to do anything with being a lawyer. Although, you know, some people wrongfully assume that legal representative might be a lawyer of the company. No, that's not the case. Legal representative is simply the director of the company, China registered company. So they are responsible for day-to-day running of the company and of course decision making. Shareholders can instruct You can manage the relationship between shareholder and the director by a simple agreement, and in the agreement you can specify what can the director do, what cannot. But generally speaking, according to company laws here, director is the person who makes decision for the company. Okay, and the supervisor's responsibility is actually that to supervise the company, and theoretically that person is responsible that the company is following all the policies and laws here, that not breaking anything, any policy or law, and yeah, all the activities of the company are in compliance with the local policies and laws. So that's kind of a logical way of the government to divide responsibility kind of in a company, not make one person responsible for everything, i.e. this director. So let's move on now. With that said, so we talked about documents now, and next thing is place of registration. Now, it's also very important, obviously, because, like I said, for example, Shanghai has 19 districts, but in these 19 districts, there are also a lot of economic zones and a lot of trade, free trade zones as well. So you need to be very specific where you want to register your company. You can do some research. If you don't know, of course, you cannot do research. You can ask us, actually, based on your business model, based on your business plan or intentions. After speaking to you, we're going to recommend you some, good locations in Shanghai that you can register. The same goes to any part of China, any province. Okay, Guangzhou consists of many regions, and Beijing, etc., etc. So you need to decide where you exactly want to register your company, and write it down, okay, in a client form. Next thing, very important, is name registration. So this is the first step, okay, although it's numbered 4, but this is the start of company formation. Okay, so once you decide all the previous details here that we described already, we get this client form from you. Okay, that client form is a piece of paper. It gives us all the hard details, okay, technical details of the company, starting from shareholder, type of company, who owns what percentage, and who is the director, who is the supervisor, etc., etc. We have all this information now, and plus we have the documents. Now this is the actual start of the company formation, which is name registration. Now remember, you gave us the name options as well. If you know Chinese, then you already gave us Chinese name options as well, along with the English options. Now we're going to go ahead and check the name availability. Normally it takes 1 day to check, and once actually we ask our clients to order the names by importance. So you put the first and most important one at the top, like put it in number 1, number 2, etc., etc. So if the number 1 is available, we're going to go ahead and register that name. Name registration is going to take up to 7 days, depending on how busy the company registrar is. So once the company's name is registered, we're going to update you and move on to the next step. So next step is going to be visiting the local company registrar. Now this one I mentioned already. So if the company director is not in China, unfortunately we have to stop the whole process until the company director can travel to China. Now if the company director is in China, and this is good, it makes it very easy. So we can actually take the company director to the local company registrar, and then he or she is going to sign the documents in person. Now in here I need to mention that if for example you cannot send your company director to China during this pandemic, we offer actually company nominee director services, and nominee director obviously is going to be in China, and yeah, for annual payment, this director is going to perform the role of the director until your actual director can travel to China. So After company director visits the local company registrar, we're going to wait for structural documents of the company. Structural documents of the company are articles of association, ownership, executives, etc., etc. All these documents are going to show, who is the owner, who is the executive, etc., etc. So local company registrar is going to draft these documents, okay, and normally, like after the visit of the company director to the registrar, is going to take around 5 to 7 business days to receive these structural documents of the company from them. So once we receive these documents, we're going to email them to the owners of the company, to the shareholders of the company. So with the instructions, okay, instruction is actually a video. We send the video along with these documents electronically. So what you have to do is just print these documents first, and then play the video and follow the instructions and sign where necessary. I need to mention that all these company documents are going to be obviously in Chinese, because Chinese language is the official language in China. And if you need, for your own record, if you need English translations, like I said, we have a translation company. We can translate that into English and then provide you with official translations. You just have to let us know, okay? Now, assuming you signed all the documents, now next step is please take a picture, okay, and send those pictures, like signed document pictures, to us, either through WhatsApp or email, both fine, just to check, okay, if you've signed in the right, correct places. Because if you sign in wrong places and then send them by post, it will be a waste, okay? And another actually very important point before I forget is please use black pen. In China, black pen is the accepted color to sign legal documents. Other colors are not accepted. Another very important point is please do not use digital signature. In China, digital signature of a person is not accepted, so you need to actually print the documents. Use a black pen with your hand, physically sign it. This is how it works. All right, and after you've signed it, after you've confirmed with the pictures, with us, we've assumed that we've checked and everything is correct. Now you can, put all these documents in an envelope and maybe call DHL, FedEx, or any express service, and you have to mail them to us, original signed documents. All right. And after we've received the documents, obviously we're going to forward them on the same day if it arrives, if the documents arrive on business day. So we're going to forward them immediately. Actually, one of our staff takes them to the company registrar, and then we have to wait for the business license of the company. Business license of the company, after we forwarded the signed documents, is going to take around 10 days to be issued or less, okay? So depending on the situation, again, depending on how busy they are, the company registrar, they issue the business license. Business license of the company is normally issued for 30 years in China. In some regions, it can be without expiration date, actually. It's also possible. Now, after you get the business license, next step is going to be corporate account of the company. Now, like I mentioned, to open a corporate bank account of the company, company's director again must visit. So this is the second required visit, okay, during the registration. Must visit the bank. Unfortunately, banks do not accept any applications from distance. So that's another reason why we really recommend that you use nominee service here, director nominee service. Why? Because again, if your director cannot travel to China, then the whole process stops. All right. And another very important point when we talk about the corporate bank account is because it's divided into 2 visits. First visit is going to be for RMB, Chinese yuan account, and this is the main account of the company, and this is where the company pays taxes from. Okay, so that's why it's mandatory. You know, you have to open this account, otherwise company is not going to be functional. And it takes only one visit, and after the visit the yuan account is going to be active. So from this moment on, company is almost, you know, ready to trade, but there's one step before it can actually trade, which is foreign currency permit. If it's you know, import and export company. If it's not import and export company, you can ignore this part. But you know, generally speaking, when we are registering this import and export international trading company, then this kind of company needs foreign currency permit. So waiting period for the foreign currency permit is around 5-6 days, business days. And once it's issued, we're going to make you know, another appointment actually with the bank for foreign currency account. But before we do that, we need to register the tax of the company. Okay, so foreign currency permit, and at the same time, number 10, we have to register the company at the tax bureau. Now, this is please remember, this is another visit. You know, in the course of company formation, director need to go to the tax office for ID verification in China. Without ID verification, without going to the tax office, company's you know, tax registration is not going to be complete. So actually, right after we start the foreign currency permit, like I said, foreign currency permit is going to take some time. We don't have to really wait until we start tax registration. Okay, so these two can be started at the same time. All right, although they are numbered 9 and 10, but can be started at the same time. So let's assume that we apply for foreign currency permit, and then at the same time we take the director of the company to tax registration for ID verification. And after that, so assuming this waiting period has passed for the foreign currency permit, now we make another appointment with the bank to take the director to corporate to the bank for the, you know, foreign currency account. Okay, foreign currency account is for import and export companies. All right, so this is where you can actually choose what kind of foreign currencies you want to have. So it can be all, you know, any one of these major accounts, major currencies, sorry, USD, it can be Euro, or it can be, you know, Hong Kong dollar, etc., etc. So you can choose. And corporate bank account, including, you know, RMB, yuan account, they're not free in China, we need to tell that. They cost approximately between 400 and 600 yuan every year, okay, depending on the bank. So you need to tell us what kind of currencies you want to include additional to RMB, and accordingly you will pay for each account annually. Now after that, custom permit. Again, if it's import and export company, it's very important that, you know, we get this custom permit. Without this, company cannot import and export. Now, import and export permit also requires the physical visit of the director to the custom office. And when the director goes there with one of our staff, we get this custom permit plus something called e-port. There's a video on our YouTube channel called e-port. You can look it up and see what e-port is. But briefly speaking, e-port is a device that is given to all these import and export companies to process import and export. It stands for electronic port. Okay, it's a USB device that should be used by company's accountant actually, or, you know, company, if company decides to hire custom clearance agent or some, you know, special personnel, that personnel who's responsible for import and export, they can use this. Okay, it's used on a computer, and there's a special platform to process import and export. All right, without this, import and export cannot be done in China. So it's all electronic now. Now, actually, if it's not a trading company, let's assume that you are registering a consulting company. For consulting company, after this, you know, number 10 here, after tax registration, company actually can start functioning, okay, because they don't need obviously import and export license, and that will be it. And you can open later corporate account, foreign currency corporate account, but foreign currency account does not stop you from starting your business, okay. Even if you don't have this, you can, once you finish tax registration, your company is ready to trade, okay. Actually, in both cases, even for trading, import and export, and even for consulting company. In case of import and export, yeah, it won't be able to import and export without custom license, but it's ready to trade locally, at least in China, okay. But for the import and export, you need to actually wait for this custom permit. But obviously for service-based companies, for consulting companies, you don't need this, so you can actually start your business. Now this is it, guys. So totally it takes like exactly 12 steps for import and export company formation, and when you ask about the time, is around 1 month or 1.5 months, depending on the situation. If it's urgent, we of course we try our absolute best to push and to speed up the things, but minimum it takes around let's say 20 business days, okay, no less than that currently with the pandemic. But for consulting companies, it takes considerably less than that. Like I said, custom permit is not required, so that makes it like at least 7 or 10 days less. But with that, yeah, this is the whole process of company formation in China. If you have any questions or any like parts that I haven't talked about here, maybe you can send us an email or leave in the comment section below. I will be more than happy to discuss and answer to your questions. But if you're in Shanghai, please feel free to visit our office. You can see the address here, and our website, our email and contact details. We have like English service and Chinese service if you speak Chinese. Yeah, I mean, there are some Chinese clients who are who live outside of China, so they can feel free to call this number, and if English speaking, you can feel free to call the first number here. Our office is located in Huangpu district of Shanghai, very close to actually the Pearl Tower, the famous touristic spot in Shanghai near the river. So yeah, this first building is actually ours, okay, not the second one. I hope you can see the mouse here. So this first building, floor number 30, okay, 30 is floor. So feel free to visit, feel free to contact us for any company formation, company liquidation, structuring, restructuring, or any other custom legal services in China, because we have not one but 2 licensed lawyers in Shanghai who can handle any sort of legal services, not only in Shanghai but around China. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next videos. Thank you.